Hey,
Hey, I
I
think,
think,
are we live? We are
I
live.
think
I
we're live.
believe, I think we're live. Go live.
Hang on.
Okay. There it goes.
Yep,
Okay.
I feel live.
I
You
feel
check.
alive too. Phew. This is a good thing. Hey, welcome everybody. Our Thursday show, Power of You. It's great to have you here. I'm Blaine Bartlett,
I'm Doland White.
and we are the Power of You.
We are, and there's the logo right there on the top of the
That's it.
screen.
It says so right there.
There we are. We are that.
Hey, we're getting high tech. We've got logos and everything.
Exactly. Which is very
We are
important, by the way.
trained
Very important.
professionals. Do not try this at home.
Exactly. Very important. Oh my gosh.
So
Yes,
those of you
sir.
that are just kind of new to this, we do this every Thursday, high noon here on the Pacific coast. The
Yeah.
Power of You. It's Doland and myself. It's our opportunity to just kind of give back. We have conversations about all things leadership, and we literally mean all things leadership. We
Oh
just
boy.
kind of lift the cover up on all kinds of stuff here and take a look at what works, what doesn't work, what you might want to think about, and not to take things too seriously because nobody's gonna really at the end of the day it's kind of like whatever.
Could be.
Not to minimize what we're bringing to the table,
Yeah.
but this stuff is
Yeah.
useful if you use it.
Right.
That's the key. If you use it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that because it is that. It's like there's that whole thing around, if you're willing to take action and go practice, go try it, just try some of it.
That's
I think that we first of all, we'd love to hear, how it went for you. Just, not that there's anything at risk, but we just
nope.
want to hear how it goes for you. But
So drop comments in as you're watching here. We'd love to kind of get a sense of what you're thinking about some of this stuff.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Feedback is a breakfast of champions, and we're
Oh
hungry.
boy. Yes. I just finished a call with a client. That was a topic today too. Feedback.
Yeah. Yes.
Feedback.
People love it or not.
Or not.
Yeah,
Maybe
we'll do a whole topic on this at some point in time because it's got. Do you mind if I give you some feedback?
Yeah. Yeah. There's that moment.
Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
I'm ready. Okay, hang on. Okay, go.
Yeah.
But today we're talking about accountability. Today we're laying
On the
it in on
Power
that.
of You,
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
going to do a little dive into something that is near and dear to all of our hearts.
Mm.
Accountability.
Yes, and as part of it, so we have our good friend Bob, right? Mr. Proctor. And for those of you who don't know Bob was the transformational guy for all of us. Still continues to. He's well beyond this. He's somewhere else. He's beyond this existence. I'm not sure where he is, but one of the things I loved about Bob, that he talked about was from an accountability perspective was it's the glue that ties commitment to results. Yes. And we're going to talk about it from a mindset perspective and get a little bit more kind of other dimensions of accountability, but it is that piece that mutual commitment that we make to each other, to and with each other, that moves us towards the result. And we always talk about from a result, it's that worthy ideal.
Yep. For the sake of what? Do we move towards something, that worthy ideal? Now, accountability, you don't get accountability from people unless they're emotionally invested in what it is that they're doing. I mean, it's as simple as that. Emotional engagement, emotional investment. Why does it matter to me? I know why it matters to you. You told me, but why does it matter to me? You never asked me that question. And if you don't ask me that question, that my answer to it is going to kind of be kind of squishy, and I'm going to go run into the woodpile in a lot of different ways here because my behavior is associated to meaning I'm making, things that I make up in my life. So when we talk about it being the glue, that glue, that stickiness has to do with the emotionality, the emotional quality. Why is it important to me?
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. I was chuckling to myself in there. I've heard this a couple of times today. over the last week or two even, or career, 40 years more, which is I told them why it matters.
Yeah, damn it.
I told them this is why this matters. And that result that's really cool. That poor forklift driver, he's got no comprehension on why that result means anything. When I'm moving pallets from here to there, I'm out. I'm focused on that.
Yep.
So why does this matter? So this is the glue, to your point. This is the glue that ties commitment to results. Thank you, Bob, for that quote.
So models that we work off of. Yeah. We've got those of you that have not met us, which are very few of you, I would imagine, or at least you know us by reputation.
Come on.
Ha ha.
Come on.
Somewhat. Anyway, that being aside,
being infamous.
We've gotten over 90 years worth of, this is the gray hair and the beard and stuff. 90 years of working with leaders around the world between the two of us. And like any consultant worth their salt, we have managed to develop a couple of models that inform the way that we work with our clients. And these two models that you see in front of you right now are what we are building a lot of these power of you conversations around. This leadership universe model. Yeah, leaders work in systems. They literally live inside a universe that they're trying to move parts around. Leaders cause movement. How do they cause movement? Well, when you think about it, and this is where most traditional leadership development conversations begin and end. You start with a vision, the why. Why are we doing this? What's up? The why, the what, which is strategy. The how, which is the tactics. The why, what, how, vision, strategy, tactics. That's the universe that a lot of folks think that leadership bangs around in. But there's a whole other area, and we can actually associate this. As long as I'm talking about universe, you drop below the strategy piece, which is the visible and the material, that stuff that we can kind of tangibly pay attention to out there. Dark matter, the dark matter of the universe is the mindset. It's out of sight, out of mind. You can't really see it until it shows up and it bites you in the butt. And it will always bite you in the butt in some way, shape, or form. 95% of behavior is generated out of mindset. It's not out of conscious intent. It's out of mindset. So when we work with our clients, when we work with the organizations with whom we work, 90%, 95% of the work we do is in this domain of mindset, which opens us up to accessing what we call spirit or soul, which is that unique piece that informs who we are, that looks for expression. And this is where innovation and creativity actually lurk. Innovation and creativity are the offsprings of fruitful imagination. That's what you get when you're actually playing with imagination. Now, when we're working in this area of mindset, we want to have some sort of a structure that allows for people to actually feel safe enough to explore. That's where the 4 pillars come in.
Yeah. And today we're gonna focus in on systems of accountability. But when we think of those 4 pillars, first pillar is always trust and autonomy. Trust is that I trust me. I have to trust me to trust you. And we've talked about this quite a bit. When I'm developing trust, there's always that moment of fear, right? That terror barrier around can I actually trust you to get things done? Autonomy is the willingness to trust individuals, giving people the permission to try, to go do things. It's from an autonomy on the reciprocal side, on that individual side, is that willingness to try, willingness, and Blaine touched on it, willing to imagine, willing to test, willing to fail. Communication and transparency set up the extension of trust. It's how we communicate to each other, which in turn builds commitment and our willingness to understand the for the sake of what. And we'll talk a little bit about for the sake of what here. But then growth and innovation. Again, growth and innovation steps into, sorry, I've been choking myself this morning. Excuse me.
This is a live
mindset.
Show. Yes.
Yeah, I know. For mindset, I've only been talking for like 7 hours so far today.
Yeah.
For mindset and spirit and soul, it is that, you know, innovation is that willingness to think differently, to experiment, and an innovative spirit. In order for that to occur, it's founded on communication and transparency and trust and autonomy. And today we'll talk about systems of accountability, which just we'll disclaim it. I'm not going to do a Trello demonstration for you today. We don't have Excel spreadsheets and Gantt charts and work breakdown structures. This is about, we're talking about commitment, as our friend Bob Proctor a moment or two mentioned, the glue.
And that's what leaders do. They when I say that's what leaders do, they create possibilities in people's mind that can ideally become probabilities. And when there's commitment behind it, which is where accountability actually comes into play, that probability has an opportunity to become a reality. So there's possibility. Aha, new territory. Never thought about this before. Probability. Conversation takes place and go, this could happen. Who's signing up? I'm in. Okay, that's commitment. Where's accountability come into play now? Feet to the fire. Now we've got a result on the backside of it here. So leadership is the activity, how you go about creating that probability or that possibility to probability to results migration. You know, the way to yes is always through maybe. You know, it's always through maybe.
Yes.
And when you walk in the room as a leader, who you are speaks so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying, is one way to think about this. You have an energetic field about you, and you are continuously influencing in that leadership universe just by your presence, by your state of being. So leadership is the activity of influencing others in the way that we work with our clients. This is what we're looking at here, influencing, not command and control. Command and control is easy. I mean, big stick, big pot of money. You know, you can get people to do anything for a short period of time.
Right.
But then you got to go back to the bank, or you got to go back to the reward structure again. Influencing is a state of being. People move because of who you are, how you are. Co-creation is my idea now becomes our idea. And there's been a mind meld that's gone on. And when we're talking about accountability, this piece is absolutely critical because it's emotional engagement.
Yes.
It's now our idea. I own it as much as you do. You own it as much as I do. I'm committed. I'm committed. That's the glue. That's the piece that comes into play here. Now we get down the road, we're going to step on each other's toes because we've never been here before. I've got preferences about how we do things. You've got preferences about how you do things. How do we coordinate knowing that we're going to be stepping on each other's toes? This, and from a leadership standpoint, has to do with how do you artfully use conflict to facilitate continual movement. Movement does not happen without friction. Friction creates traction. You got too much friction, you're going to burn things up. You got just enough friction, you're going to
burst into flames
forward. Yeah, it's kind of, whoa, got too much friction, you can't, it gets sticky.
Yeah.
In pursuit of a worthy ideal. And where this one comes into play, and we talk about the for the sake of what a little bit, but this is different than the why. Simon Sinek talks about the why. You do a deeper dive by asking the question for the sake of what, and you start to uncover some very interesting richness that, again, from an emotional perspective, begins to resonate. There's an energetic resonance that begins to occur. People get out of bed going, ooh, I want to go do this. That sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. Love that definition. This definition that we live into. It's funny because, when you're thinking about accountability, and as we kind of talk about some of the components in it, all of that accountability is, from a pillar's perspective, it's that piece that hooks all of this together. Yeah. It's that commitment we make to each other. Did I influence you? What have we co-created? What's that coordination look like? And are we in alignment on our worthy ideal? And worthy ideal is well, we'll talk about worthy ideal. You want to? I think it's the next slide.
Yes, we will. Talk about a worthy ideal, which is this notion of when you start looking at worthy ideal, the question of for the sake of what are we doing this? So there's the vision. Okay, that's one thing. And ideally, that's organized around some why. Why is this important? When Simon Sinek talks about the why do we exist, sort of a thing. That kernel, that core.
Right.
You start going into that core, and you go into it by asking the question, for the sake of what? It's not your vision. It's not your goals. It's really not even your purpose. It's what does it make possible? What matters? That's where the worthy ideal comes into play here. And what matters to me is different than what matters to you at a fundamental level. At a macro level, what matters to me is I get paid for the work that I'm doing.
Right.
Okay. That's easy peasy. Yeah. That is not what we're talking about here. And we start moving away from the idea of motivating people, which is real hard to get people to, hold accountability for, when motivation is the only mechanism. You get inspiration in play. Inspiration is internally driven. Accountability now becomes a far more effective mechanism that you can actually true to. It actually works a lot better when you have inspired engagement, which is another word for inspired is emotional engagement. It matters to me. What matters?
Yeah. I'll pile on.
Come on
Let's
down.
pile on. But no, it's interesting you see that though, Blaine, because I think one of the things that we, it's easy for a leader to lose track of. We talk about I'm moving towards this thing that I want to get done, which is I'm going to increase my sales by 10%, and I'm going to, there's an outcome, and an outcome is where I'm heading. That's a thing, right? That I'm moving towards. But there is that, we talked about it this morning on the challenge. One of the things you said was we're doing a 5-day challenge, just, shameless plug. But one of the things that you mentioned on there is I am my results.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking about that, right? And for the sake of what ties into that, it's that deeper value. Why does it matter? What is that worthy idea? What's that meaningful thing? There's a client that I'm working with, and I've mentioned them before, that helps people write their books, and they have a goal statement with a date involved. It's got the SMART components and the 40X components that are all built into it. The worthy ideal is so that people can tell their story.
Yep.
That's we did an exercise this morning, starting with let's build gratitude around that worthy ideal. What's your grateful component for that? What does it mean to you? And if you're missing that from a systems of accountability perspective, it's gonna break.
Yeah.
Things are gonna break.
Yeah. So that idea, and this is where I think really the real power in this is when we're looking at accountability. Accountable to what and for what? Okay.
Yeah.
That tends to be. Yeah. Can I hold you accountable for the delivery of that result? Well, yeah, you can hold me accountable for that, and I'll hold myself accountable. But that's at the surface level. The worthy ideal is where accountability, and this goes back to Bob's notion about glue. This is where glue comes into play here. If there's a worthy ideal that is embedded in that objective or that goal or that vision, if there's a worthy ideal embedded in it that's meaningful at a personal level to me, at a core level to me, that is a sticky thing. I'm not gonna. I'll be like a dog with a bone with that. Yeah, it's real difficult for me to walk away from that. So accountability is embedded in this worthy ideal when you land on it well.
Absolutely. It's in the DNA. It's in the DNA. So
there we go. The mindset that fuels accountability. And we work with mindset. So
that was our promise. We're going to talk about mindset, imagination, spirit, and soul today. But the mindset that fuels accountability. So this is leadership mindset. As we're talking, as you're listening to this as a leader, whether you're with us live today or you're listening to us downstream or you stumble on this on YouTube by accident. But here's the deal. When you're working with your teams and working with yourself, right? I talked a little bit about trust. Leadership starts with here. right? With putting our oxygen masks on first with our mindset. And it's when we're fueling that thinking, that mindset, that space that's in here around accountability, the very first thing is clarity creates confidence.
Yep.
And it's reciprocal, right? There's that component that is, I think, playing, for the leader themselves and for their team. We talk about this with our clients around, without clarity, people make up their own stories.
Yep.
It's very important, right? The leader must believe that clearly defined expectations empower, not constrain teams. Empowerment is giving permission, trusting. I'm giving you permission to try. That means you're empowered. The real definition, right? I'm not going to plug you into a wall socket and watch you vibrate. You have permission to go. And it's that we create a shared understanding. We have co-created a definition of success. We have created a shared understanding of success, and we want friction, but we don't want to burst into flames. We want to be able to do ease and elegance, so reducing friction. So we're looking at, through clarity, we're creating the confidence that empowers this statement. And that's accountability begins to build that. It's a component of that structure.
That idea of constraint.
Yes.
I was working with a leader not too long ago where this was part of the conversation we were having. He couldn't get his team to actually step up. From an autonomy perspective, from just kind of just go out there and do stuff. And the reason when we started dialing things back, he thought he was being clear, but in the clarification, in that clarity conversation, he had embedded literally too many hows. Do it this way. Do it this way. Yeah. So the hows crept in, and the team felt constrained to be able, to do it without disappointing him in terms of the executables, not the execution, but the executables. And so this is the mischief that mindset causes, because most people aren't aware of what their language is actually producing, and their language is born out of mindset. So he wasn't even aware that he was, positioning his request for and his definition of what was going to happen here within the framework of, here's how you do it. Here's what I'm going to be looking for. That sort of stuff. So, and as a consequence of that, this last piece here, or not the middle piece, he took ownership away. He literally took ownership away because, there was no autonomy left. Don't do it the way you think is going to be best for you. Do it the way that you heard me tell you that I wanted it done. So ownership and
you can own it,
not oversight.
You can own it, but I want you to do it my way.
Right. So
okay, there you go.
So feedback is a growth tool, not a weapon. So with him in particular, and I'll just continue down that thread. He was very willing to take some feedback. Kenny Blanchard, a long time ago, I shared a stage with him in Copenhagen years and years and years ago. But he said this point, feedback is the breakfast of champions. Feedback is the breakfast of champions, and never forgotten that, because it really is. And leaders that go out of their way to get feedback. How am I doing here? Here's what I'm working on. How am I doing?
Right.
Tell me where I'm missing it. Tell me where I'm hitting it. Feedback takes both sides. It's not just critique.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because one of the things, boy, this is like moments fresh. And speaking with a client this morning, one of the things we were talking about was feedback. And the mechanism of feedback and what feedback really means, and kind of landed in a spot where we were sharing the idea around feedback is not the question. So how am I doing? Feedback is not that question. It's not, because it is not. So if I lost 10 more pounds, how am I doing? Feedback is, what did we learn? What could we have done better? What could we do more of? What could we do less of? Feedback is that it's that opportunity. It becomes a learning opportunity. It says it right. It's reframing. It's reframes accountability, and accountability, by the way, in this context for this slide, is it's that commitment that we have to. It's not the system. It's not, the Trello board, as I mentioned, but it's that accountability that we have to each other, to be clear, transparent, to speak with trust, and to be able to share that. So when we're having that feedback, it's that opportunity to say, what, I was listening to my buddy at Delta, the CEO of Delta Airlines.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, and I love that. And he was talking about on the podcast. I've been studying him for the last couple of weeks, a wild lark. And he talked about one of the things that they neglected to do in their meetings was seek feedback on things that succeeded. They sought feedback on things that didn't go well, but they neglected to seek feedback on things that succeeded. So they initiated feedback sessions on success. What can we learn from that so that we can do more of that?
Yep.
Or is it right to do more of that?
Feedback is a form of assessment, and assessments either open or close possibilities. They either open or close possibilities. So when you're giving feedback or soliciting feedback, for the sake of what has to be well understood. Do you mind if I give you some feedback for the sake of?
Yes,
and
exactly.
That last piece, can I give you some feedback? Is kind of like, God, I'm not sure. For the sake of, oh, now I get it. Yes, or no, thank you. Yeah. So there's choice involved in this, but you want to be able to frame it in the context of for the sake of what, because that's where accountability lives. You drop it right back into where's the glue?
Yes.
Where's the glue that's keeping us going here?
Yeah. Cool stuff. Love feedback. There's,
motion of expectations. Go for it.
Yeah, we're talking. We're talking about. I think it's four pieces around this. But the very first is, and I'll go through this quickly because you guys can read this as fast as I can talk about it. The reason why this is in this spot is we've been talking a little bit about trust and autonomy, communication, transparency, growth and innovation. But they aren't all of these things. Like when Blaine and I talk about mindset, imagination, spirit, soul, the four pillars. They aren't in and unto themselves discrete. They are all components that blend. And it's kind of like buying a box of Ginsu knives. I forget. I don't know why that popped in my head. You got to know which Ginsu knife I'm an old chef, right? Am I using a boning knife, a carving knife? What am I using to do the job? All of these things, not that you use knives to lead, but could be an interesting concept, I suppose. But it's an opportunity. Yeah, exactly. But it's an opportunity to think about it. So in clear expectations, it is that opportunity to do, and I love this statement, set the stage for success before the work begins.
Yeah.
Set that stage before, just make sure that it's just set that stage. And a lot of times as leaders, we lose patience. Let's just get going. Let's go. And we get going, and the question comes up, so where are we going? Where are we going? Like going on vacation without a map? Where are we going? So set those expectations up front.
Yeah. The whole idea of elegance, the idea that leaders have to go back and clean up after themselves. Oftentimes that's because clear expectations weren't set up front. I live on an island here and we've got trees everywhere. And we also have a lot of interesting weather that comes through here. So periodically, more frequently than I'd like, we've got a tree down across our driveway, and our driveway goes through the forest when it comes here. So I've learned a long time ago that before I go out to fix that tree, I take literally 10 minutes and be sure the chain is sharp. I sharpen the chain on the saw because I usually can't remember the last time I did it. Okay? But I sharpen the chain on the saw because when I get to the tree, it's so much easier to work with a sharp saw than it is a dull saw.
Oh, yeah.
And that whole notion of sharpen the saw and then drop down the tree, metaphorically that comes into play, but clear expectations. It sets the stage for success before the work begins. So there's some upfront work with this. That's
Yes.
essentially what the metaphor is intending, is that there's upfront work that you need to do before you go ready, fire, aim. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You want to
Yeah.
ready, aim, fire. So the
Right.
ready and aim piece is what we're looking at here with clear expectations.
Where are we going? What are we doing?
Yeah, well,
What
built-in
is it? What is it?
visibility. Where are we going?
What's it going to look like when we get there? So yeah, and I'll just touch on the other ones quickly so we can go to the next. But it's, when we, from a communication perspective, one thing that's very important is just a couple of things on this line is, when we talk about regular check-ins, dashboards, these are some tactical things that help you. Yes, they help you remove hidden roadblocks, and they do all those kinds of wonderful things. The mindset component that lives behind that is create clarity on where you are, because clarity on where you are creates confidence in the team to move forward. It hooks into momentum, it hooks into trust. The more visible and transparent we are when we're looking at whatever endeavor we're working on with built-in visibility, we have that up. Anyway, I will go on from there. So,
well, but you notice here in the parentheticals and in each one of these bullet point areas, these are where the 4 pillars actually come into play. So we're navigating this universe, this leadership universe, in this mindset area, which is oftentimes very murky. It's people don't really know what's in play there. Honestly, they don't. You start using these pillars, and when you are organizing around making sure that visibility is part of the system, transparency is part of the system, you get these things, and these pillars come into play in terms of how you go about producing that. So empowered ownership. Here I go. This
go. You swallow. Trust is the catalyst for accountability.
And the way that works, here's the misunderstood thing about about trust, folks. What we're really talking about is nobody else other than yourself. Do I trust myself to handle the consequences of decisions and choices that I've made? Decisions to delegate, perhaps, or the decision to say, yes, you can count on me. That commitment, that declaration of commitment, has to be grounded in an experience of trust of self. I trust myself to keep my word.
Yep.
External circumstances be damned. I said I was going to do it, and I will find a way to deliver. So that's where trust becomes the catalyst for accountability.
Yeah,
that's really what we're looking at here.
Yeah, and it's fun because I love one of the things that we could probably spend 4 sessions just on the word trust.
But well, in our mastermind session, we actually spend 3 months. 3 months.
3 months on trust, right?
On trust. Yes.
But it is that there is that. Just I'll pull a couple of words out from each one of these. Delegate outcomes. What we used to tell my team all the time: bring me the candy bar. The chewy nougat stuff in the middle. If you need help doing that, tell me and I'll help you do that. But the chewy, you got the chewy nougat. Show me how that works. Bring me that candy bar. A lot of there's that endemic thing with growth and innovation, right? Where there's that I'm not going to let go, so I'm going to micromanage it. And if you're listening to this, think back to that definition of leadership: co-creating coordinated movement. In that moment, it's that opportunity to create that opportunity to grant permission for people to go try. And then ownership grows when communication stays clear. In every slide, we've said something about communication.
Yep.
Not by accident.
Nope. The definition of communication is it's the ways, plural, the ways we work out common meaning with one another. And when you have common meaning, you now have a basis to move forward together. If you don't have common meaning, you're going to have people run into the wood piles, and it's going to be, a cluster.
That would be, yes. That's a good word. Yes. Cluster is a good word. Cluster is a good word. Yeah, cat herders. So yeah.
So this is, empowered leadership comes into play around this, and empowerment is, I'm not doing it for you. I'm getting barriers out of the way, and I'm providing access to resources for you to do it.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because it's one of the things. I don't want to lose track of what you just said. It's one of those mic drop things. Since I'm in studio tonight, I can do a mic drop thing.
You can drop a mic.
But the I'll drop one in your honor tonight. Which will piss off the engineer. But what one of the things there though is that we're doing this together.
Yeah.
And on each side, when we do things together, for those of you who are watching this, who may be married or maybe in a relationship of something, there's things that we do. We have a set of accountability that we do together. And in that set of accountability, we understand the roles that we play. And there's not this is me and this is you. From an accountability perspective, as a leader with your team, that role blends, because when it's truly together, there's not a hard line. Together means there is not a line. And that's a really important part of it. And that's accountability. Accountability is, I'm making a commitment to fulfill this piece, and I'm going to collaborate with you, work with you on the part that you've done. And together, through accountability, we'll move forward towards that worthy ideal.
Yeah.
And that's the trust barrier.
That's the trust piece. And in a high-performing team, that looks like interdependence. I can't do what I'm doing unless you bring what you're doing to the table. So, with interdependence, you absolutely have to have embedded accountability around the commitments that people are making, because I'm counting on you bringing to the table what you promised to bring. Otherwise, I'm dead in the water. And that's not going to be something we want to deal with.
No, we shatter trust.
No,
we could go on and on about that. Yeah, then you shatter trust, and oh my goodness,
way we go here.
Yeah.
So from the standpoint of what a leader focuses on, I said earlier, possibility into probability into reality. The focus has always got to be, from a leadership perspective, knowing that you're going to wear a number of different hats, but from a leadership perspective, that future state, that ideal that we strive for, that worthy ideal. So you have to get up and out of the weeds. It's a heads up proposition, not a heads down proposition. So when you have accountability endemic in the team, you've actually built it into the culture. It frees the leaders to focus on strategy, growth, and innovation. They don't have to babysit, as we say on the slide here, babysit execution. So growth and innovation is a natural consequence of having accountability part and parcel of the culture of the organization. Yeah. And then when the leader is modeling trust and open communication, it has, people give you what they perceive you're willing to accept. They will never give you what you're asking for. Now, if you're getting what you're asking for, there is integrity and congruence. But when you're looking, and as a consequence of that, you're actually modeling what it is that you're asking people to produce. So when you start modeling trust, when you start modeling open communication, it ripples throughout the culture. People begin to give you that because that's what you're expecting, and they perceive that that's what you're about. So trust and autonomy kind of come into play here, as well as, and it's fostered by communication and transparency. Leaders' highest value is not in answering questions, it's actually asking questions, empowering other people to find answers for themselves. So they come to you, there's an old Harvard Business Review article. God, this goes back to the 1970s, I think. Yeah. Who's got the monkey? Who's got the monkey? And basically it's a metaphor for, folks in your team coming to you, and they're bringing a monkey to you, the care and feeding of a monkey. Yeah. It's now your problem. As soon as you say, oh, well, I'll take care of that, you now have got the monkey. Who's got the monkey? You want to keep the monkey where it belongs, with the people that can do the work, execute on it, learn from it, that sort of thing. Your value is not in answering their questions and taking on their load. Your value is in empowering people to find answers themselves. You do that through questions. How would you solve this? What would you think would be the best course of action in this regard?
Yeah.
You know that this didn't work last time. What might you think of differently that could make it work next time?
Yeah, help me understand.
Questions, and then go away and come back and tell me what happened.
Yeah, there's the elegant leadership questions. Have you lost your mind?
That one in particular.
That one in particular. What the hell were you thinking? But no, you know what? It's funny because from that leadership point, and as we look at, as leaning in through all these 4 dimensions of accountability, and there's so much more. But as we kind of lean into that, at the end of the day, it is really, as the leader, that trust pillar, trusting to allow someone, giving them permission. And the way you give permission is by asking them those questions. Help me understand, what did we experience? What did we learn? And anyway, that's an opportunity. That's our opportunity there. I've been talking all day, so it's kind of like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So and being willing to take on what people's suggestions are. It's interesting what you can come up with. Jeff Bezos told this story one time. When Amazon was first starting, they had a little 2,000 square foot place that and most of the team, the early team, still had other jobs. So at the end of the day, they get together and they were literally just a book reseller at that point in time.
Yeah.
So they'd come together in the evening and they'd get down on these concrete floor, packing these boxes, for shipment. Night after night after night after night after night. Pretty soon the aches and pains started creeping in. And the way that Bezos tells his story, his knees were hurting and he started complaining about, God, we got to do something. This is not tenable. We can't continue to do this. My knees hurt. I think what we need, this is my brilliant idea, he said, I think what we need are knee pads. And a guy next to him looked at him like he was from Mars. And he says, are you crazy? What we need are packing tables. And what was interesting, he said that one idea where that person said, knee pads, are you out of your mind? What we need are packing tables. Yeah. They went out the next day and they bought packing tables for this place. They doubled their productivity as a consequence of that. And he said that was the first lesson he learned about listening to people that were closest to the work. Give them the monkey. They know what the monkey needs to be, how to feed it. They'll find a way to get this thing happy again.
Yeah, that's such a good story. That's very true. It's like, give me, I don't have to be on my knees.
I don't know. Get a packing table.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So this is this is just a real quick graphic that just summarizes the 4 slides that we went through. Clear expectations. Every team member knows exactly what success looks like. Everybody knows. The key thing is you've co-created an opportunity for everybody to know. And by the way, just anecdotally, you don't do that once.
Nope. I told them last week. I told them.
Yeah.
They didn't hear it. I'll guarantee it. They won't hear it until the 14th time you've said it.
Yep. Visibility, we've talked about. Build regular check-ins. The only one of the tips that I'll give everybody on regular check-ins is when you commit to a cadence of communication. I love to call it. When you commit to a cadence of communication, do it.
Yep.
So if you commit to a cadence of communication with your client, with your team, with your manager, with your leaders, with whoever it is that you're communicating, do it. Make sure from an empowered ownership, again, accountability systems, you're fostering trust, and we're encouraging team-driven outcomes. We're letting them think, and we're helping them through that. And then leadership focus, of course, strong accountability. Leaders stay focused on strategy, not day-to-day supervision.
Not day-to-day.
Right? There's times you may get pulled into it, but keep your eye on the future. So, symptoms.
If accountability is not in place in the way that it needs to be in place, here are some symptomatic telltales. This is kind of how you begin paying attention to it. They golden role confusion. The team operates without clarity, leading to duplicated efforts. And this is where it gets really kind of frustrating. We designed this perfect organization. We screwed it up when we put people in it. Okay? It got screwed up because we didn't give them clarity about what we were trying to make happen. The for the sake of what,
Oh,
the
yes.
purpose, vision, that stuff, gets a little squirrely, particularly as the organization starts to grow. So you
Right.
end up with do-over time. Let's do this again. Nobody communicated. Nobody told me that. So lag time increases because there's no trust. You start getting quality issues. You start getting cost issues because it's taking too long. Morale. All of this stuff comes into play because vague goals and role confusion have not been clarified.
Yeah. Yeah. The reactive problem solving, right? Again, without structural accountability, issues are addressed only after they escalate. So one of the great things is hindsight's 2020. Just always hindsight's 2020. So when you want to, as you're moving through this, accountability helps you. It's a symptom inside of your organization. If you're firefighting, you're draining energy, you're eroding trust, I call it stacking. You're stacking on your team. And that's a symptom that accountability is not existing, and it's something is broken there somewhere. Doctor?
Yeah, and then when something's broken, and this gets to be interesting here. Accountability gets confused oftentimes with blame.
Yeah.
Yeah, who's accountable for this? Another way of saying that is who's responsible for this? Well, most people on this planet learned about responsibility and accountability pretty early in their lives, usually when they're about 3 or 4 years of old and something fell off the table. Maybe they were wrestling with their brother or sister and lamp fell or a vase fell and it got broken. Mom comes in and says, who's responsible for this? And the kid hears, who's to blame for this?
Yeah.
Blame and responsibility get commingled. And over time, accountability takes the place of responsibility. Accountability and blame now are commingled. So when something goes off the rails, who's accountable for this? Finger pointing comes out. This didn't work well. And we start exploring, what happened. Well, it's because marketing didn't get it right. If they'd given us the right branding information, blah, 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 all that stuff. Without clear ownership, things start to go off the rails real quick, and it's hard to get them back on the rails. So you end up with a culture that is literally organized around risk aversion, responsibility avoidance, accountability avoidance, and literally you take that to the extreme, results avoidance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny you say that. I just brought a picture of mine. My brothers and I, young kids, remember darts, that kind of like the darts you have in the bar,
darts,
right? Yeah, we used to throw darts at each other, and I remember my mom asking us, "Okay, whose idea was this?" And we all went, "Yeah, he thought it was a good idea." Anyway, another day. Leaders in the woods. You're as a leader. One of the things with accountability is you become a constraint. It's a symptom of accountability. You're stuck managing tasks instead of managing the strategy or leading the strategy. There's no managing strategy. You lead strategy.
You lead strategy.
Yeah. And your team is dependent on you. You're literally become a strength. And what happens across all three of these symptoms is you notice it in the performance of the team through some simple things: missed outcomes, unexpected consequences, people wandering off because this too shall pass, and lack of trust. And generally, lack of trust is directed at each other, that finger pointing, and that in that direction.
Yep.
It's directed up. These people had this wild ass idea. I can say that it's Thursday. I can say wild ass.
Yeah, it's Thursday. You have permission.
Wild ass idea. I've seen these wild ass ideas, and this is going to pass too. So I'm just going to go focus on what I'm doing. So we tried. I gave it a week.
We tried. That's that is the okay. We tried here. Take the excuse as the result.
We tried.
I'm offering up the excuse. The reason why we didn't do it. We tried.
Yeah. We tried.
So there's a sacrifice here, and this piece is, I think, worth kind of putting a pin in. Long-term growth gets sacrificed for short-term survival. And that survival piece has to do with contraction. Yeah, I'm not sure if I stick my head out here. And the association of accountability with blame. Yeah. So short-term survival, if fear is in the system in any way, shape, or form, just know that people are concerned primarily from a physiological perspective. It's out of conscious awareness, but physiologically the body is going, got to be safe here, got to be safe here. Yeah, don't stick your head out. That all of that's kind of going on. So long-term growth, which requires risk, which requires extension, which requires innovation, gets sacrificed because accountability was not in place. And this goes all the way back to that for the sake of what? If that's in place, the glue has been created. I don't have to worry about my survival because this is so important to me. And I will begin to hold others on the team accountable for what they said that they were going to do, because I can't get forward if they aren't bringing it to the table.
Right.
That interdependence becomes very crucial. I think the shorthand of accountability is it creates interdependence in an organization. That's what you're actually fostering, is interdependence. And with interdependence, you have a high-performing team. And it just, and it's cooking with gas.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that statement. That's such a great statement, Blaine, because we've many of these conversations we've had around power of you. It is about building relationships, and that interdependence and that willingness to have interdependence is built on powerful relationships. And accountability is part of that. So, all right, what's next?
This is the fourth pillar in the 4-pillar model.
Yeah.
And, we, like I said, Doland and I do these every Thursday, and they're all in service of you enhancing your effectiveness as a leader. Now, these are just toe dips into different things, different aspects of leadership. We keep pulling the cover back on all kinds of different things here. But the real question is, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And, I love, Einstein's got quotes about everything. At least the internet says he does. But nothing happens until something moves. Now, in physics, this is true. But in life, this is also true. Nothing happens until something moves. And what study after study after study after study shows is that only about 20 to 30% of participants in any kind of professional development program, and I don't care what it is, only 20 to 30% of the people follow through on action plans unless there is a support system that enables them to actually work with this thing called mindset, this dark matter that is out of sight, out of mind, that is mischievous as hell. It will bite you in the butt, and you're right back to where you started. Unless you've got a mechanism in place, a system in place that allows for effective feedback about what's going on here, for the sake of what you said was this important. And you get this feedback mechanism that's providing you the kind of information that you need to keep yourself on track. That's what we're looking at doing here. So part of the next step that we're going to suggest, and this is self-serving, there's no question about that, but we have got a leadership mindset mastermind. This is the 5th year we've been doing this. This is a 52-week, year-long mindset mastermind program that's beginning June 2nd this year. So it's only a month away.
Right.
You've got 1 month to get your butt in here. 1 month to get your butt in here.
Wow.
Like I said, 5th year. This thing has gotten rave reviews. It's focused entirely on the mindset systems that are in place that will either enable what you're doing or will constrain what you're doing as a leader. It's a comprehensive curriculum. It's stuff that Doland and I have been working with for literally 90 years combined. This is stuff that I've worked with clients all over the globe with. Doland has been in the CEO, COO chair in a number of different organizations. That expertise is real world. So you're going to be getting something that not anybody is really going to be getting for the price point that we're offering this thing at. It's just crazy. Access to a private community. There is a mastermind component to this. But Doland and I both teach every week. So 52 weeks, every week, there's an hour-long session with both Dolan and I, where we go into aspects of this whole leadership mindset exploration. And over the course of 52 weeks, your mindset begins to shift. And by the way, this is how mindset gets developed in the first place. It's repetition over time.
Yeah.
So we will spend intentional, dedicated, focused time becoming aware and then beginning to shift. Becoming aware, beginning to shift. Through repetition, through mindset governance, those sorts of things come into play.
Ditto.
Okay. So
Ditto. I think that if the one thing that I will tell people is if you're looking at that and you're considering this at all, first of all, join the waiting list. It's an opportunity to. We're not asking you to don't write a check today. Just join the waiting list. We'll give you the information. We'll have an opportunity to talk about whether this is right or wrong for you. But look, or for us. But the most important thing is that and Blaine and I do this with our clients. We do this with our individual clients, and where we co-coach clients is that you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
And we have a propensity, I think, as adults and leaders to kind of go, well, I got it. I could figure it out. I'll read the book and go execute against that. And to a degree, that's a mechanism to attain a partial amount of success. Real success is working inside of a pure group of individuals who are moving towards common outcomes, which is success, defined individually. Of course, for each person is a little different. But through our experiences, it's the power of mastermind, right? It's in Think and Grow Rich. Napoleon Hill talks about it, not to quote Napoleon Hill, but it is the power of mastermind. So our invitation is click the bit.ly link, take a picture of the now the bubble pop of the
QR code.
Of the QR code. That's what it's called. Of the
That's
QR
the
code. I was on a Zoom call today and told people, well, we'll go around the horn. No, we're not on a call. So of the QR code, and join us for the waiting list. Look, this is starting. I hadn't thought about it's coming up that quick in June.
Yep.
This session's coming up. So please do.
There's limited space.
Yeah, please do take advantage of this. This is not something that this is an intimate group. This is a working group that's really focused on the opportunity to provide you a chance to attain success in a 52-week period of time, which across a broader lifespan of career, when we've got combined 90 years out there, a year investment in our career, if we can help you multiply your success by 10 in the cost of a year, that's really what we're on the hook to do. So we'd love to have you.
I mean, just for the sake of what, just as a kind of a placeholder, I'll just stick a pin in this. We do this leadership mindset mastermind for individuals that are looking to scale their organization, to take it not from a linear incremental over 5-6 years, 10% of we're interested in quantum shifts. We want to, how do you scale your organization in ways that you can, if you play with your imagination, you kind of go, oh God, I wish, what if? That's the question that we are organizing this work around. What if this was possible? It is possible. How do you move it into probability? Then how do you translate it into results? So what's possible? That's one of the very opening salvos when we begin this work in this mastermind. What's the dream? What's the worthy ideal? How do you scale to hit that? That's what we're after. And we're pretty good at it.
Yeah, not bad.
Not bad.
So on that note, join us. Thanks for being here with us. It's fun to do this together. I have fun, and it's fun to kind of look at it a little. Leadership could be this big topic that gets taken on. It's very serious. We have an opportunity to poke fun at it every now and then. But thanks for being here with us. We appreciate the comments, the observations, the shares, the things that we're seeing going on in LinkedIn and YouTube and other places. So thanks for joining us.
And we will see you next Thursday. We are opening up a completely different conversation. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be jumping into the leadership universe conversation.
Could very well be. It's a whole new
Could
can of
very well
worms.
be. Possibilities abound.
Whole new can of worms. So there you
Can
go.
of worms. Yeah, there we go. We'll see everybody next week, Thursday afternoon, 12 o'clock noon Pacific time here on the West Coast of the United States, and wherever you are in the world. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and enjoy.
See everybody later. Thanks.
Thanks.